Glad to see you again. The topic of today's video is going to be, what camera should I get? Let's get on with it. Okay, let's do this real simply. Let's just initially go with the numbers. Canon, last year in 2023, made up almost half of the sales when it comes to cameras, followed by Sony, which was about 27%, and then Nikon. Yes, I said Nikon. That's closer to the Japanese pronunciation of the word. You'll hear me slip every once in a while and go back into the American version of it, which is Nikon, but Nikon is closer to being correct. They made up the 12%, and then, followed by Fuji and Olympus, and what's the other one? Panasonic made up the rest of the numbers. So the number one seller of cameras was Canon. That's just going by the numbers. That's not my opinion. That's the numbers. Now here's the thing about picking your first camera. There's so many different kinds of cameras, as I just mentioned, and once you pick one, you kind of need to stay on that road. Yeah, you can get multiple cameras, but now you're talking about getting multiple lenses, and it becomes a problem. You like to have one camera that is your main camera, and then you buy lens for that camera. That's practicality. Unless money is not an issue, then you can do whatever you like. It's up to your personal preference. So let's start off this video with a little story. I'm not a young person, I'm an older person, and way back, around 40 years ago, the morning talk show host that would go out in the audience with his microphone and interview people was a guy named Phil Donahue. I know most of you probably have no idea who I'm talking about. Some of the people my generation will know exactly who I'm talking about. And he had a guest on who was a professional photographer. And this professional photographer told a story that I thought fits even today, 40 years ago. He was at a dinner party, and a writer friend during the dinner party came up to him and said, I want to know what kind of camera you shoot with so I can take pictures like you. And the photographer looked at him and said, okay, I'll tell you what I use. Also tell me what kind of typewriter you use to do your writing, because I want to write like you. That's fitting. It's not really the equipment per se. It's what you do with the equipment. It's the knowledge you have and the talent that you have to create your imagery. That's the most important thing. But you do need to pick a series of camera so that you can go in that direction. Once you pick that road, you pretty much need to stick on that road, because you have an investment now of gear, and it's a little difficult to get gear for every different kinds of camera. So let's go with the number one choice of camera that was sold last year, and let's go with Canon. I think you'll find that even today, Canon is probably one of your better choices if you're going to start photography or videography. And I'm about to tell you my number one reason, even today, with going with Canon. Even today, I would go with the Canon line. And there is a very specific reason, regardless of the fact that the numbers support it, that half the sales are Canon cameras in 2023. These are what makes it still a great choice even today. The fact that there is such a large amount of lens that you can get for your camera. If you go with a crop sensor Canon camera, we're talking about the Rebel line or the 2 digits and a D, 90, 80, 70. These are all crop sensor cameras. And crop sensor camera takes a Canon lens that says EFS on it. That is a lens that was designed for the crop sensor camera. So where it says on this lens 10 by 18, that is the millimeter range that you're going to get from that crop sensor. And if it's the kit lens, the 1855, that's the millimeter you're going to get if you were talking about an EFS lens. one of the things that's really good about the Canon line is you can also go with the EF lens. The EF lens was designed for the full frame Canon cameras, but they will also go on the crop sensor camera. The only thing is you have to change the millimeters if that's important. If you're not just looking at the imagery through the lens and doing what you need to do. Zoom lenses, you can kind of zoom in and zoom out and get what you want anyway. But if you were using a prime lens, let's say, a prime lens is a lens that does not zoom. It is stuck on whatever millimeter range that the lens says. So if you have an EF prime lens, it says 85 millimeter on it, and you're putting it on your crop sensor camera, it's not going to work like an 85 millimeter. It's going to work closer to 100 millimeter because of the crop factor. But it still gives you a huge amount of glass that you can use on that camera. You can use the full frame lens. You can use the crop sensor lens that was designed for the camera. So you've got this huge amount of Canon lenses, all different millimeters, all different functions, all different clarity. Top of the line Canon lens has the pretty little red ring on it. It's the L lens, the L series. Great glass in these things, but they're a little bit more expensive. You can still get good imagery from the standard lines of Canon lenses. Now, you have all that. You have that huge amount of glass that Canon provides for its cameras. And then you can go into the other markets. This right here, this little lens, I love using this lens, and it's made by Sigma. So Sigma will have a line of Canon mounts that you can get. So now we've gone from Canon to Sigma. The same thing with Tokina and Tamron. They all make a lens mount for the Canon cameras. Now they also make lens mount for the Nikon and for other cameras, but they predominantly stay around the Nikon and Canon lines because that's where the numbers are. That's where their clientele is going to want a lens for. No surprise, I would still today go with the Canon camera, knowing all I know about the different kinds of cameras there are, for the simple fact that you can get this glass, all these different varieties, and you don't have to go out and buy them new, because this is the main lens that people use. Aftermarket, you can pick these things up. You can go on eBay and get a lens. You can go on Craigslist to get a lens. You can go on Facebook Marketplace and get a lens at a relatively good price, and most of the time they're in very, very good condition. Now, using things like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, there's situations where things can get a little shady really quick. So I'm going to get into that on another video. You have to be careful. If you see a lens that, or a camera or anything else that is normally $2,000 and somebody's selling it for $136, and you open up the ad and they said, well, don't contact me through this venue, contact me through these other addresses, or they put in a phone number, they fake put in a phone number, so you don't do those things. That's very dangerous. You're going to cause yourself a situation. But back to the topic, here in 2023 or 2024, this is the next year, I would still go with the Canon line just because you get a great value for your money. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video, and have a great day.